good day everyone. Is everything doing great? By the way, I am Brent Kyle Carnelan de Castro together with my groupmate Hanessa Buasan Omar. We will discuss to you the physical education in the early national period 1783 to 1820. Significant events. The major concern before 80s were survival and politics in that order. The real attempts to put physical education into the educational curriculum were in the 1820s and 1830s, when experimental schools and academies began to open under the direction of men and women who had been influenced by the growing interest in physical education within the new European schools. There is free movement in the United States which enhanced the effects of the European influence. The first is women's education movement, seen particularly in the growth of female seminaries. The second is the move of religious group into education and later physical education. The third is the growth of sports in the United States during the years before 1860. European theories popular were the ideas of Pestalozzi, Joseph Lancaster 1778 to 1883, Philip von Fallenberg, and German gymnastic system. Late 70s and early 80s, women's education grew in popularity strongly supported by Dr. Benjamin Rush 1745 to 1813, where female seminaries or academies were founded in many communities. Tuition was required at the private institutions because providing free public education to women was not yet considered worth the expense. Attempts to open public high school for women in the Boston and New York City in the 1820s were failures because too many women wanted to attend, and the taxpayers thought the cost was too high.
Antebellum physical education in the United States, 1820-1860. Round Hill School was opened in Northampton, Massachusetts in 1823 by Joseph Cogswell, 1786-1871, and George Bancroft, 1800-1891. This college preparatory school was the only American school that advocated the idea of individualized instruction, where classes were small, usually about 6 persons each, and the instruction was individualized for each student's level. First, recognize the importance of physical education activity as part of the educational program, which include dancing, riding, and gymnastics. Founders had observed the programs of German gymnasium and of Feilenberg and had decided to try an experimental school based on those ideas. Charles Beck taught Latin and gymnastics in this school from 1825 to 1830, which he started the first outdoor school gymnasium as well as the first school gymnasium program in U.S. Public education began to develop where many public schools for elementary education were being opened. Most opportunities for secondary education remain in the private academy schools that charge tuition. Academies which frequently co-educational stress terminal education, that is, they were not college preparatory and they were more practical than classical in their curricula. The first public high school for boys opened in Boston 1818. In 1852, Massachusetts became the first state to pass legislation requiring all children to attend school, and the first 4-year college for women was established in Elmira, New York. By 1830s, aristocratic tendencies begging to disappear, more democratic feelings began to emerge following the example of President Andrew Jackson. By middle 1800, people were pressing for free education. And also, in 1832, John Warren 1778-1856, a Harvard professor of anatomy, published a book supporting physical education. This work, The Importance of Physical Education, is the first theoretical book on physical education because it was philosophical in nature. However, most colleges were not very interested in physical education. Although they had began to provide gymnasium and other facilities for physical activities, the improvements were primarily the result of the students' agitation for the facilities rather than any administrative or scholarly interest in the value of the exercise for students. During the 1830s and 1840s, a developing trend in heavily populated cities concerned public health. Doctors began to notice the large number of unhealthy citizens, particularly children, and assessed the problem as one caused primarily by a lack of exercise. Gradually, other cities in the United States began to try provide public parks for their citizens' exercise. This civic action for low-level recreation was the start of a long period of gradual growth toward important field recreation. There are two religious groups began to get involved in physical education and recreational activities. The first one is Young Men's Christian Association, or YMCA, was founded in London in 1844 by George Williams to help young men to lead moral lives. The second one is the Young Men's Hebrew Association, or YMHA, was organized in Boston 1866 and also which had been founded 1854. Literacy Society began adding physical education activities. Number of colleges began to grow rapidly, sometimes called land and grant colleges. The following are the most influential factors in the development of physical education in the United States, and also was the example of Turnvereins or German gymnastic societies. The first one is the Turner groups were much likely family physical and social clubs, for there was as much social organization, including entire families, as the physical activity-oriented groups. And the second one is the goals of the Turners in this country were to promote physical education, improve the individualized intellect, and to provide opportunities with the other members.